Oh, shit.
Yeah, it's way better. Hello, I am Spiggy. I am here to educate you on what exactly an auteur is. Now, I don't know if you guys have heard this term used before, but I feel like it could be applied to most everyday people.
But first, what the heck even is an auteur?
Well, as the Webster Dictionary likes to put it, it is a film director who accords to the auteur theory. Now, I can already see you sitting there being like, now, what the heck is an auteur theory? Well, allow our friend Webster to explain once again. The auteur theory can be defined as a way of filmmaking in which the director is the primary creative force in the motion picture. Now, if you're catching on, you might already know a few good auteurs, such as Quentin Tarantino, Christopher Nolan, Wes Anderson, anybody? I know I love him. But being an auteur used to mean more than just making a great movie. It used to mean something a whole lot bigger than what it is now. It was something that I believe that this world needs now more than ever.
But in order to better understand what an auteur is, you need to understand the history of it, and more importantly, their significance.
And when did the history of auteurs really start? Well, the birth of cinema, of course. But why? Why do we need auteurs? What's the point? I mean, like, couldn't film have evolved with just technology? Why do we need Quentin Tarantino and Christopher Nolan to practice their art? Well, I like to think that the answer lies in the past, with some of the more notable auteurs in American history. The first real notable American auteur that I want to focus on, unfortunately, would have to be W.D. Griffith. As much as it really pains me to bring up this guy and some of his really less politically correct movies, he was a notable man in the auteur scene. He mastered the art of the linear story. As much as I wish somebody like George Marcels could fit this category, he was an all-American filmmaker. Honestly, if it weren't for this man and the many men like him, film wouldn't be what it is today. The next guy perhaps stands out the most in visual appearance. You might know him. You might see him. You might have even, well, no, you've definitely never heard him. It's none other than Charlie Chaplin. This man perfected the art of film, popularized it, and then threw in some signature slapstick comedy on top of that. If it weren't for that, his works wouldn't be very distinguishable from the rest. That, and it's really all they had going for them back in an age where creativity was quite limited, mainly due to the technological restraints. For his time, Charlie Chaplin was the film guy. You still think back to film in that era, and you'll probably see him. He is an icon of the era that he invented. Probably boasting the most impressive and quite possibly the biggest filmography on this list would have to be none other than Mr. Alfred Hitchcock. He was better known for his very controversial, yet captivating use of suspense in movies, and his momentary mystery that he liked to use. Mr. Hitchcock is the grandfather of the suspense genre as a whole. He really redefined what it meant to keep your audience guessing, and, most importantly, at the edge of their seats. These next two are very similar yet different in their own creative way. I couldn't help but categorize them in the same class, as I feel like their creative goals really intertwine very nicely with one another. They've really shown the world what it means to personalize your movie, to make the movie that you want to see. And these people are, of course, none other than Stanley Kubrick and Tim Burton. As they go above and beyond to work with their creative mind and the physical world to truly create something that belongs in a dream. I don't think that the auteur theory would be the theory that it is now without these guys. They've shown the world what it means to make your own film. Stanley Kubrick most of all, as he elected to have full control in each creative aspect of the filmmaking process. He truly made his movie. While these next two might not seem very surprising to be on this list, they are very extremely important to film history, and modern-day cinema as a whole. Their writing and filmmaking techniques have been replicated time and time again in this very competitive industry that we find ourselves in now. These two guys being the daddies of modern cinema themselves, George Lucas and Steven Spielberg. They practically invented the blockbuster era. If it wasn't for Jaws and Star Wars, who knows where we'd be right now? George and Steven really breathed life into their films. They took an artistic genre that was too abstract, not entertaining enough, and made it the future. They showed the average audience the power of modern cinema. And last but not least, I do want to throw in one of my favorite auteurs ever. This man has really opened me up to what exactly an auteur is, and how they operate, and how they think. He makes me want to have my own distinct personalization of a movie. He makes me want to be more. And this man is none other than Wes Anderson. I think what I really admire about Wes Anderson is that he does not confine himself to the camera. Or reality, for that matter. No, what I admire the most about Wes Anderson is that he takes his films and he figures out what they are, how they're going to be told, and in what medium they're going to be told. Of course, I'm mainly talking about Isle of Dogs and Fantastic Mr. Fox, but if you do spend the time and actually watch these films, they wouldn't be what they are otherwise. If he didn't take the time to really flesh out what these movies were, to him, they wouldn't be so goddamn amazing. And the color palettes! Oh!
Okay, but so what?
Now, I know what you guys are thinking. How does this even apply to you guys? You're just sitting there all bored, that face on. But, believe it or not, I'm not just talking about myself in this scenario. You know, film director. Believe it or not, but the auteur theory can be applied to an average Joe just like yourself. Mr. Webster did tell me one more thing before he went to bed for the night. And that was the second definition of what an auteur really is. And that is an artist, such as a writer or musician, whose style and practices are distinct. If you ask me, I believe this to be the true definition of auteur. And this means that anybody can be an auteur in any department of their lives. If you want to be a history auteur and know as much as you can know about the life before us, then you're an auteur. If you love math and numbers and can't get enough of it and just want a job as a banker, you're a banking auteur. You are an auteur. Anybody can be an auteur. Just depends on what kind they are. Be an auteur of your craft. Be distinct. Be different. Perfect the craft that you love and have always wanted to improve upon. And most importantly, make it your own.